Just let it in.
And after taking a week off, a Star Wars show is back. I'm your host, Jon Justice, with some pretty huge news from an unlikely source, that being Kylo Ren / Ben Solo, Adam Driver. We'll get into this in just a moment. As always, a Star Wars show, though, is brought to you by the EMBARK Space Opera series. I hope you'll take an opportunity and pick up your preferred version of any of the books in the 7-book series. Each book can be written by itself or part of the entire series. I designed them that way. They are an exciting mix of Fast and Furious, Star Wars, Ready Player One, the science fiction adventures of the 70s through the 2000s. I wrote this series because of my love of Star Wars, but I wanted it to be grounded in Earth 2172. It starts off as a post-apocalyptic disaster story that morphs very quickly into a sprawling, epic space opera. After Earth faces its end, you'll follow pilots Taff, Katha, and their ragtag crew on a journey of survival across the galaxy as they fight for humanity's future. All 7 books in the series available in all formats on Amazon.com, and I hope you will go and check out your preferred version today. Start with EMBARK Book 1, and if you have purchased the books and haven't gone and left a review, I really would appreciate it if you could head on over to Amazon.com and leave a positive review for the books in the series.
This is not going to go the way you think.
So let me set the stage on this. I took a week off last week. There wasn't a lot going on. And news broke of the box office numbers, now that all is said and done, for all of the films released by Lucasfilm under the Disney banner. And what it specifically shows, without getting into the numbers: 1, Solo lost money. The Rise of Skywalker underperformed, even though it made a profit, but underperformed dramatically compared to The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, while Rogue One did decently in bringing in the box office dollars for Lucasfilm. There was one thing that was abundantly clear about what this particular set of data points, these dollar amounts, showed. There was a tremendous drop-off after The Last Jedi. There's just no denying it. I mean, even I, perhaps even I underestimated the damage that the brand took for the fans that simply found the film entirely too divisive or just hated it. Now, you put on top of this the lackluster return in terms of a level of excitement among the fandom for a majority of the live-action shows, and it tells you why Disney has been so reluctant to put anything on the big screen for the past 6 years, since The Rise of Skywalker. They've obviously known this information for a long time. And on top of this, there was a report that came out that The Rise of Skywalker was like one of the most expensive films ever, at like $650 million. Or it might have been 630. At those numbers, it doesn't matter. And I wonder how much of that is tied to Colin Trevorrow. Do they still have to pay him a salary for his Duel of the Fates script and the pre-production that went into that film, which was shelved before J.J. Abrams came in, retooled it completely, wrote a new story with Chris Terrio, and the film The Rise of Skywalker that we ended up receiving on the big screen. One thing is clear, though. The Disney Star Wars under the Disney brand was definitely damaged after The Last Jedi, and it's really unfortunate that that was the case, because right now, with what we're dealing with in terms of The Mandalorian and Grogu coming out next year, who knows how long that's going to do, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. I had the chance to see the trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu on the big screen now a couple of times, and I want to share with you what I thought about that. Also, I would say it speaks volumes to the faith that they have for Star Wars Starfighter, because while The Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be the first theatrical release that we will have received of Star Wars since The Rise of Skywalker, I'm not viewing that film in the same way that I view any of the other films. I mean, even Solo. I mean, The Mandalorian and Grogu is an event film, but it's not like we're only seeing them, or we've only seen them, or will have only seen them on the big screen. We've enjoyed 3 different seasons of The Mandalorian, including what was spiked into the Book of Boba Fett. So I really feel like The Mandalorian and Grogu is a bit of a test for Lucasfilm. For those that aren't aware, when Bob Iger took over, back over as CEO, they were working on a Moana television, not a live action, but an animated show. And Bob Iger came in and says, don't. Don't make it live action, go put it on the big screen. And while most said that the story wasn't nearly as good as the first Moana, it ended up making a lot of money. Something very similar, I'm convinced, has happened with The Mandalorian and Grogu, wherein perhaps they were going to make a Mandalorian Season 4, but instead they're putting it on the big screen to see how that works at a much reduced price tag in terms of how much it cost. I'm excited to see it, but for me, the big return for Star Wars to the big screen is going to be Starfighter, which brings us to this story out of Variety. Adam Driver, Kylo Ren, Steven Soderbergh. I'm a fan of Steven Soderbergh. I like his films. I don't know how he would do as a Star Wars director. And I'll get more into that in just a second. But here's the news that broke. Apparently, Adam Driver had an idea for a Ben Solo movie set post The Rise of Skywalker. We'll get into how that apparently might have worked. It's called The Hunt for Ben Solo. Driver got Steven Soderbergh on board to help develop it, and then took it to Lucasfilm, who liked the idea, but Bob Iger and Alan Bergman, one of the other executives over at Disney, killed it because they couldn't see how Ben Solo was alive. Presumably a question that would have been answered in the film. And to get to some of the direct quotes from Adam Driver, he says, "We presented the script to Lucasfilm. They loved the idea. They totally understood our angle and why we were doing it, but we took it to Iger and Bergman, and they said no. They didn't see how Ben Solo was alive, and that was that." I want to go to a comment that I lifted from Reddit because it plays into my thoughts on this. And they say that they're hoping this was potentially a pressure tactic. Soderbergh's short statement in the article to the effect of, "I had a fun time making this movie in my head, and it's a shame fans won't get to see it." The commenter on Reddit says it feels like they're baiting Disney. Obviously, Disney is not always the best at decision-making, they go on to say, but turning this down, the commenter says, is moronic on a level I can't comprehend. One of the best actors and best directors working today to team up for a Star Wars movie and you turn it down? It's like so nonsensical it feels like a prank. I'm going to push back on this a bit. We have no idea if The Hunt for Ben Solo would have been a good film. There's a lot of credit being given that this would have been some amazing Star Wars film because, one, Adam Driver, who, is a very well-respected actor. I think now when you sort of look back at Adam Driver playing Kylo Ren, it sticks out a little bit within his resume. And you can push back on that a little bit when you look at a film like 65, which was, I love that film, science fiction film set in the past on Earth where Adam Driver essentially plays an alien, but you don't realize this, and he ends up landing on Earth during the Jurassic period. It's a fun little 90-minute science fiction film. So Adam Driver certainly is no stranger to doing sort of smaller projects, but he is a well-respected actor. And given that rumors about Disney and specificity, like what Adam Driver delivered, are almost, if ever revealed, especially from high-profile actors, there's a lot of speculation saying that they wonder if NDAs for Star Wars, non-disclosure agreements, have ended, therefore they can speak openly about this. Or, as the commenter from Reddit, asks, maybe this is kind of a pressure campaign. We've seen this happen in the past. Deadpool, most specifically with Ryan Reynolds, where he actually went and shot and produced a scene to convince the executives to move forward with his Deadpool film. So all of that remains to be seen. The fandom is going nuts over this. Now, you may not see it if you're not online and you don't follow in those circles, but if your social media algorithm is tuned into Star Wars in any way, shape, or form, this is all anybody is talking about. It's understandable given how, again, divisive The Last Jedi was, how popular Reylo was, and how many individuals were ticked off at the fate of Ben Solo in The Rise of Skywalker, something that did not bother me in the least bit. I really appreciated the way that J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio wrapped up The Rise of Skywalker. I love that film as a popcorn Star Wars movie. It's disappointing because I don't know where the $650 million went. I mean, that amount of money for that film, even though I love that film and the special effects are awesome. I just, the $650 million just kind of escapes me. That is something I would attribute to an Avatar film, for crying out loud, where we're breaking a ton of new technological ground, or a film that is just stacked to the nines with A-list actors that got to get paid. And The Rise of Skywalker isn't any of those things, even though I love the film and I find it an exciting watch. But the fans are taking this stance, and this is what I want to focus on. They've been taking the stance of, oh my gosh, like the one comment that I had attached to this of, what a mistake. Did they never learn? Look at what we could have gotten. This is why we can't have nice things. And I just want to stop down for just a second. This might have been a great movie. Be that as it may, Bob Iger and Alan Bergman do have a point. In a world where Disney has, well, let me just say this. In a world in which Star Wars, where a lot of actors come back from the dead, and you have fans flipping out and criticizing Ahsoka Season 1 when Sabine gets stabbed and yet she survives, and you still have fans that joke about Darth Maul being chopped in half and coming back. I mean, I haven't even gotten to Emperor Palpatine yet. It's really easy for people who are Reylo fans like I was, fans who were upset that Ben Solo died in the final film and never uttered a word as Ben Solo officially after his redemption, other than ow, when he ended up on Exegol and jumped onto that giant chain as he was descending into the realm of the Sith Eternal. Again, nothing that I ever personally had a problem with. I love that film. But fans right now are using what Adam Driver has put out as a means to further go and criticize Disney. And I want to stop and go, we have no idea if this movie would have been any good. The Hunt for Ben Solo, I hope, was a working title, because that title's awful. It's immediately conjures up The Hunt for Red October. It just doesn't work for me at all. And again, just a title that could have always have changed. But just because you got Adam Driver on, you know you're going to get a good actor. But Steven Soderbergh is a great director, but not all of his films stick the landing. And I have no idea how he would have done as a Star Wars director. Not to mention, while you had individuals inside Lucasfilm that loved the idea, those could be individuals like a lot of the people in the fandom who, you know, I'm a Ben Solo, Kylo Ren fan, but they were fans and they go, oh, this is a great idea. But when you get to the CEOs who may be making a bad decision, but at the same time, they do have a point. Because if they had moved forward with this film, and this is the point that I really wanted to drive home, if they had moved forward with this film and somehow this was not a movie that was based on Ben Solo being a Force ghost, the commentary would be completely opposite than what we're seeing online right now. If they announced, hey, we're getting a post The Rise of Skywalker film with Ben Solo directed by Steven Soderbergh, you would have a portion of the fandom that would be like, cool, awesome, I wonder how they're going to bring Ben Solo back. And then you would have a huge portion of the very vocal online fandom going, we're doing this again. Somehow Ben Solo returned. They simply wouldn't buy it. So I don't put a lot of, I don't put much more thought beyond what I've shared with you now relating to the fandom getting excited over this. It seems like an interesting concept. I get Adam Driver being the individual who was pushing this idea, and he has a lot of respect attached to him, but do we know the track record of Adam Driver relating to writing stories? I mean, even Adam Driver has been in films that didn't make any money at the box office and nobody went and hardly saw. So it's interesting. Certainly at a time where we're clamoring for Star Wars news, as we always have, but it's a bit of a dry period right now, post Andor Season 2, and it brings up all the Reylo aspects of it again and brings that portion of the fandom out of the woodwork. But I am not so quick to jump on board to say, oh, I can't believe we didn't get this. Bob Iger and Alan Bergman had a point, and the fandom is fickle. They're going to complain for the sake of complaining. And if it's this movie not getting made, oh, they didn't make this movie. Going the other way, it would have been, hey, this movie's coming out, and it's supposed to Rise of Skywalker, and it's about Ben Solo. Oh, we're doing this again, as I mentioned. But what do you think? It doesn't really matter either way. I don't think this film is ever getting made unless this was a pressure campaign. Would I've liked, and let me just say this again. For me personally, if they had announced this, I would have been on the side of, I'm curious how they're going to bring Ben Solo back. Because it never bothered me that Darth Maul came back. It didn't bother me that Sabine got stabbed and still lived. It didn't bother me at all that Palpatine returned. I really aligned with J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio's views of the entire arc of all of the saga films about being about Skywalkers and Palpatines. And I appreciated what they attempted to do and what they, in my opinion, successfully did. So that being said, if they had announced this, I would definitely be interested and I would be rooting for it to do well. But I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in the fandom and how they feel right now because I think they are very fickle and they like to complain. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com or leave me a comment up on YouTube. Tell me I'm crazy. I don't care.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
All right, Rome Ed, friend of the show, writes in this week and says, I've watched the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer and I enjoyed it. I noticed some people aren't too excited about the movie, but I think when the movie's out, everyone will go see it. Firstly, it's been so long since we've had a Star Wars movie playing in the theater. Secondly, people loved the show, even though the third season was a bit of a letdown. I'll call it right now. The Mandalorian and Grogu is going to hit the $1 billion mark in its theatrical run. What do you think? Another Star Wars movie I'm looking forward to is Starfighter. I think this movie is going to be new, fresh, and exciting. I have a feeling that the studio is focusing really hard on good material, good movies. Not that I don't like the Star Wars movies. Thank you, Rome Ed. So, I don't know about the $1 billion mark. The Mandalorian and Grogu is an incredibly safe bet. Because as long as you put up on the big screen 2 hours of, say, a film that's on par with some of the best episodes of The Mandalorian and Grogu, of which there are many, there's a lot more good of The Mandalorian live-action show. There's a lot more good in The Mandalorian live-action show than there is bad. I just finished a rewatch of Mandalorian Season 1, and it's fantastic. All the episodes are solid, and I love Season 2. So if we're getting 2 hours on the big screen of a solid Mandalorian live-action show level big screen movie with The Mandalorian and Grogu, yeah, I think people are going to love it. There's no extra baggage attached to it either. Like what I was discussing relating to Reylo, The Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi. No, this thing sits on its own. Again, I don't know about the $1 billion mark, but I don't think Disney is banking on the $1 billion mark. And let me add, I've gone out to see Tron Ares twice, one in a regular theater and one time in IMAX. And both times they played the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. And I will tell you, it plays really well on the big screen. Any reservations that I might have had, and I was with a lot of people in how the trailer looked like it was coming from a Mandalorian Season 4. And it still has that tinge to it. It's not like it changed on the big screen. I'm just saying in terms of the translation from watching that trailer on TV to the big screen, it looked fantastic. And watching it in IMAX, even more so, to the point where I may try to go see my first viewing in an IMAX screen because it really looked that good. So any reservations that I had about this looking cheap on the big screen were, I'm setting aside now that I've seen the trailer a couple times on the big screen and a really big screen. So, listen, what are your thoughts? I want to hear from you. It's quiet this week, but I also didn't do a show last week either, and the news has been slow. But we'd love to hear your thoughts on this, The Hunt for Ben Solo. Where do you stand? Would you have been fine if they had tried to explain away how they brought him back? I know some people were speculating that you could rationalize in the same way they did Palpatine and say that there was something different about the dark side power on Exegol, or perhaps we would see a different side of Force ghosts, wherein it would be Kylo Ren as a Force ghost. And there's a lot of different angles that could be taken. Or does that completely put you off? Do you think that this automatically would have been a great film simply because It was a story idea that Adam Driver had. He spoke highly of it, and he got an acclaimed director like Steven Soderbergh on board. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment up on YouTube or drop me an email, talkshownerd@gmail.com. And lastly, again, I hope you'll take a chance on my science fiction series. I wrote it because of my love of science fiction and Star Wars. It's not hard sci-fi. It's based in reality, but really, I take a lot of science fantasy liberties with the storytelling to craft a fun, fast-paced, action-packed science fiction adventure without an agenda. It's good versus evil, freedom and liberty versus tyranny and oppression. Treat yourself, a friend, or a family member to EMBARK. Written for adults, but completely age-appropriate for those 11 and older. I hope you'll go and pick up EMBARK Book 1 today, or any of the books in the series if you've only picked up the first book. Available in hardcover, paperback, audiobook, free on Kindle Unlimited, and ebook. If you like your science fiction space opera to be epic, filled with unique and a ton of action sequences, some romance, EMBARK is perfect for you. A lot of spaceships, too. I love my vehicles. Head on over to Amazon.com and search for EMBARK, EMBARK, and Jon, Jon Justice. And I will know whether or not you were encouraged and inspired to buy them, because I know that when sales occur after I do my podcast. Show your support. Pick up EMBARK. Have yourself a fantastic week. Looking forward to hearing from you as well. I hope wherever you are, you're happy. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're safe. God bless. And again, I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
The Force will be with you.